back for the assembly video of the engine nobody seemed to care that much about. So, in the last, like 2 or 3 weeks, longer than I hoped, I went ahead and got the engine block prepped. So both of the head surfaces are resurfaced as much as I can do here. I got both of the cylinder heads resurfaced as well, and I ended up actually getting the valves redone as well. The seats, they should be a good. They should have a good seal now. These are all cleaned up. I also managed to get the oil pan, or the upper oil pan off camera, and got that all cleaned up. It used to be all dirty looking. And also, you've probably already seen, I got the timing covers all cleaned up as well, just to make sure everything's going on nice and fresh. So, all that out of the way. Actually, also ended up ordering all the bolts I broke, some new hoses, as well as I got a Subaru OEM entire engine seal kit. A couple things missing because I needed them for the heads, but basically this is how that comes. And actually, the whole reason I got this instead of getting just like a cheaper like Rock Auto Parts kit is because the more I looked into these engines, the more I realized that they have a lot of specific parts on them, or seals specifically that you need, like these O-rings right here for the front cover are a really specific size, and apparently you can't just get those at like, they don't come with the kits on Rock Auto, and they're not just like a generic size, they're like really specific sizes. So if you're ever rebuilding one of these, just know you should really be using Subaru OEM engine seal kit. It costs about $300, but honestly it's totally worth it considering you're not going to waste any time not having the right seals and whatnot. So let me go ahead and get this all set up and start getting these heads back on. These are marked so you know exactly which one goes on which side. This one goes like this. Yeah, so this part hurts to watch at this point because it caused me quite a bit of headache later on. But basically what happened here is I put the head gasket on upside down on purpose because I was cleaning the back side of it, and I had meant to flip it back over the correct way, clean that side, and then go get the head and put it back on. But for one reason or another, my brain just stopped working, probably because it was cold and I was in a hurry to get back inside. But I just went ahead and put the head on without doing the middle steps, and yeah, ended up having to completely redo it. And so you'll see that later, but for now, just know that I caught it before it was too late entirely, but still ended up giving me a little extra work there. both heads on today, but as you can see, the sun's starting to get pretty low, and it's gotten cold very quick. I can barely feel my fingers, so I'm going to pack this up and do it tomorrow. Alright, now that the sun's out again and my fingers aren't falling off from frostbite, let's go ahead and finish this. So next thing I'm going to do is go ahead and get this oil pan on, so I got to get a couple oil rings in here, and then get this all prepped. These O-rings are super specific, not only from size, but if you look real closely you can tell they got like a little sort of a, I don't know how to describe it, it's like an inner sort of a lip or something, so something to keep in mind. Right there, and that is not a spot. I think I got them all. I'm just going to check over the factory service manual real quick, make sure I've not missed anything here, and then we go ahead and put the oil pan on. Alright, good thing to note, this hole is just blanked off. Like, there's nothing going through here, but it still calls for an O-ring right here, so it comes with it. I'm going to use it, but I don't really see what it's doing, but they call for it. Maybe it does something, so I'm not going to take chances on that. Now all I got to do is get some of the packing material, the gasket maker, around all this, and put that upper roll pan on. And despite the fact this is a Subaru engine, I prefer Toyota gasket maker, so that's what I'm going to use. Now it doesn't call for any gasket maker on the outside of these particular O-rings, but I'm just going to add a little bit just as added insurance, I guess you could say. Check, see if I missed anything. Don't think I did. Maybe a little more here. For one reason or another, it does call for some right there, so I'm going to go ahead and have that. Alright, now once you get the oil pan on, all these bolts are all really specific sizes, so it's a good idea to not mix them all up inside of a single bag, if you can manage that. I didn't have the foresight for that, so I'm just going to go ahead and hope for the best. Shouldn't be too hard. Fairly stir that one right there. A little long. That's good. It's easy to remember which ones go on the outside and the inside, because the ones that go on the inside are just kind of yellowed, and the ones that go on the outside are fucked. Almost a really bad day. This little thing right down in here popped off, fell right down there, which is luckily not right down into all the connecting rods in the crankshaft. It's got a little sort of a shelf right there, so let's not let that happen again. But otherwise, that's all installed now. I don't know if I want to put the oil pan on right away or not. I might wait until I get everything else on, just in case. It's not really hurting anything. It's going to be flipped the other way for most of this anyway, so yeah, actually let's move on to getting the timing chain installed. I want to get that knocked out today. Alright, so I was getting the front rear timing cover prepped to go on, and I realized I can't actually do that yet because the front camshaft, what do you call them? I guess retainers, journals, bearing, the retainer, whatever it is, the front cover is part of the rear timing chain seal, so I gotta get the cans on first, so let's go ahead and knock that out. One here. Too much oil in here. If you ever remove heads and cams from an engine, they use these little cups right here. Make sure you have them stored in a way that you can remember exactly which valve they go onto, because these are actually what set your valve lash on this kind of an engine. So if you mess them up, you might mess up your valve lash. Engine might not run very well. I just stored mine. I don't know if you can see this. Set that down right there. Anyway, I just stored mine in a box, which I labeled front and rear. This is right head, left head, obviously. So these will be the intake for the uppers, and then lowers exhaust. So easy to remember, and I don't mess them up. Unless I drop the box, which hopefully I don't do, but like my track record, you never know. And you want these to go in a little oily, but obviously clean them up first. For video time's sake, I'm going to cut forward to when all this is done. Got everything in, it's all oiled up and torqued down, all the gasket maker is in the areas it needs to be. And I was going to put the valve covers on now, but I realized there's one thing I overlooked that the engine kit doesn't include. It's valve cover gaskets. Literally everything except for those, as far as I can tell. So I'm going to go ahead and order those and put those on later, I suppose. For now, I guess I'll go ahead and get the other side knocked out, up to the point where I'm at here. Okay. All cams are in, torqued, whatnot, all the gasket sealers in these things. I have valve cover gaskets allegedly going to be here tomorrow, so whenever those show up, I'm going to pop these back off, go ahead and install those, and then I'll be ready to slap the front timing chain covers on. These are just in place for now, just to kind of keep dust out as much as possible. That's the only reason they're here, so trust me, I'm not going to put these on with no gaskets. Yeah, as you see, it's getting dark again, and it's cold again, so I'm going to pack up and do this when it's warm. Hopefully tomorrow. I think it's supposed to rain. We'll see what happens. Alright, well, it did end up raining the other day, and then immediately the next day afterwards it was like 10 degrees outside, and I was not interested in working on this thing at all. I managed to get the valve covers on with seals this time, but it took me like 3 hours just because I had to like go outside, do a little bit of work, and like constantly, you know, be like freezing my fingers off and stuff, and have to go back inside and stuff. So yeah, I didn't really film any of that because it was just obnoxious. So with the interest of actually finishing this thing eventually, I decided to move inside the garage, get my car outside and thing, because I have a heater in here and it's not perfect, but it's definitely livable. So lighting might suck for the rest of this episode, but you know, at least it'll actually get done. So I got the surface all cleaned up, it's all ready for sealant, front or the rear front cover, whatever you want to call it, over there. I'm gonna go ahead and slap this thing on and get this thing in time. Alright, here's all those O-rings it calls for. They're all super specific sizes. So this goes right here. And I'm using a product called, where is it? Hylamar. It's kind of a gasket maker, but it's mostly like a sealing compound. It's really good. People with rotaries use it a lot for their O-rings and their housings. But it's actually just like pretty general purpose, and it works really well to just kind of put in the holes where O-rings go, and it really just helps them stay in place while you're working. It kind of gets like a little sticky. It never really cures like to like a hard rubbery finish. It just kind of gets, like I said, sort of sticky, and it really helps seal these things up while also just keeping your gaskets and O-rings in place so they don't fall out while you're trying to install them. It's pretty cheap too. I think it's only like, I forget, it's like $10 a tube, something like that, pretty standard price. Definitely worth it. And you definitely want to be super careful about making sure you got an O-ring in every single spot in this thing, because there's a lot of them, and if you miss one, you're going to have a bad day, to put it lightly. Because you're going to have an oil leak, a pretty bad one, and there's only going to be one way to fix it, and that's to pull everything off again, completely redo it again. It's just, it sucks. So hopefully, we're not going to go down that path. Pretty sure I got them all, but I'm going to go ahead and check the service manual just to be sure I'm not missing any. Oh, almost missed one. Like I said, there's a lot of them, and they're pretty easy to miss. Alright, pretty sure I got them. Here we go. Got this all siliconed up. Wish me luck. The reason I'm switching these around right now, even though they're the exact same size as the other side, because these are silver, kind of, a little more, tarnished, but they're a lighter color than the other ones, and for some specific reason, it calls for the silver ones on this side specifically. So, I'm just switching them over, just to be safe. And actually, it's pretty easy to find the difference between the silver and the non-ones. The silver ones are marked with like an 11, and the other ones are marked with an 8. So, easy enough. Probably a different grade, something like that. Really don't know. But I'm not going to question it. If you're concerned about me using an impact on these when it's not fully cured yet, I have it on the lightest setting, and I can literally stop it with my hand. So, pretty much can call that finger tight. Alright, well, I have to take this off now. I just want to note, there's not a single part in this manual that tells you to install the water pump gasket. So it's not that I'm not reading, it's just that they don't tell me to do it, and I forgot. But I have to take this off to put the water pump gasket on now. Great. Awesome. I'm going to have to reapply some of this sealant, just a bit though. I really should have worn gloves. Oh well. I guess you could say I cheaped out on this. I mean, it is Gates, which is a pretty good brand in my opinion. It's not OEM, but I'm sure it'll be fine, and if it's not, I'll regret it later. You know what? I've got OEM gaskets, I'm going to use them. really want to lube up this inner gasket just a little bit. Don't go too crazy. A little grease. Alright, so luckily it was really easy to get it back down to this point, at least, and I've already gotten kind of all the front stuff more or less cleaned up and ready to go once I get the new head gasket here, which is on, which I ordered, and it should be on the way. Hopefully it gets here really soon. But it is Christmas, so holidays might get in the way of that, obviously, so once that shows up, I'll finish that, but I figured I didn't want to waste any time in the meantime, so I'm going to go ahead and do what I can, starting with this oil filter, oil cooler. And I just have the oil pan just kind of like put in place here to keep dust out, so I'm going to go ahead and properly do that as well. So this is a Subaru EZ30D oil cooler. It goes right here, and this is one of the biggest issues with these cars, honestly, these engines at least, is that this is where your oil filter will sit. So this will go on right here, and there's this bolt that goes down here to hold it on, and then your oil filter will bolt right here. But there's a gasket right here, this orange O-ring I'll press in, and it's literally just like kind of the same sort of gasket that you have on like a normal oil filter, except whereas you change your oil filter gasket with your oil filter every 3,000 miles or so, this one you change pretty much never. No one ever changes it because no one ever thinks about it. So if you have any friends or you own a car that has one of these engines in it and you've got an oil leak, you're not 100% sure where it's coming from, 9 out of 10 times it's going to be this. So we got the surfaces cleaned up, put the new gasket in, kind of just want to get this aligned to where it's lined up, and I have a new hose for that, which I'm pretty sure is this one. No, it's this one. I went ahead and just ordered all the brand new OEM hoses for this kit, for the oil cooler, because they're all worn out, and they're actually the ones that popped on me whenever I was driving Tennessee. So I figured it's a good time to change them out with new OEM ones instead of the ones that kind of cobbled together. There it is. Just looking for my. So yeah, I ended up using an AN hose for this because that's all I had at the time, and it worked. It honestly did a good job. But there are better ways. Forward foot pins. There we go. And this has kind of become a big thing in the Subaru world lately. It's always kind of been a thing, but now it's more of a deal because they have some kind of an oil filter shortage of some kind. But you've probably seen the video. If you haven't, this is a Mazda N3R1 14302 filter for an RX-8. I think it actually fits an RX-7 too. And I'm going to test this soon, but I'm pretty sure this also works with a lot of Hondas, and in this case, it's the right filter for pretty much every Subaru that I know of. So you can use the OEM ones, but basically Mr. Subaru 13 something on YouTube has done like a video where he cuts all these open, and these are by far the best. They're all metal construction. They're really rigid inside. They have a really good bypass valve that's not going to allow your oil to just bypass the filter really easily if you have high oil pressure. So this is the oil filter that I run on these. And next time I change the oil on my Civic, I'm going to test this. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to start putting these on my RX-7 too, just to upgrade, because, you know, oil is a big thing, obviously. So, there we go. Now it's a Subaru engine with a Mazda oil filter and Toyota gasket maker. Now I needed something off of a Honda. And then I'm not going to put this hose on yet because it goes to this line that goes this way in front of the front cover, so we'll wait till all that's on first. Let me go ahead and get this off and get it prepped. Alright, I got this whole surface kind of cleaned up. I got the silicone in place. Got the pan cleaned up, looking almost like new. On the inside at least. And one nice thing about that gasket kit I got is that it actually comes with a brand new magnet for the pan, so I'm going to go ahead and use that. Obviously not totally necessary, but it doesn't hurt. Right there. And because there's some little gaps in here, I like to add just a little bit more to these. Just to make sure they seal up. Okay, if you ever installed an oil pan before, you know the next step is just wait a little while for the stuff to cure a little bit and then torque them all down. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and my GoPro's telling me its battery's dying, so I'm thinking I'm going to call it a night. Alright, well, got the new head gasket put in correctly this time. Got everything back to where it was before, and just time to put the timing on now, so I feel like this video is starting to run pretty long, so time lapse, go. Pretty typical fashion, my camera battery died while I was in the middle of stuff, but she didn't really miss much. But the whole thing's all back together now. Pretty much ready to go back in the car. All I gotta do is get it outside, get it up on the engine hoist so I can install the clutch and flywheel. And then after that, I'm just gonna go ahead and put it back in the car. And then once it's in the car, I can install the accessories and the belt and all that stuff. And hopefully this thing will actually work. So let me go ahead and cut to that. Alright, well, in the most simplest of senses, the engine is in the car. I just gotta plug everything up, obviously, and I'm gonna go ahead and just jump to the end of all that after I get everything back in and see if this thing starts. Alright, everything is buttoned up. I got the oil filled up and primed by removing the fuel pump fuse and just cranking it for a while. Coolant's all topped off. It's had plenty of time to air out a little bit. I've been burping it here and there. Check for all the leaks. Everything should be good to go. So this will be legitimately the first start. Hopefully. If it starts. Let's see what happens. Fuel pump prime. Killed the battery. Let me charge that real quick. Alright, Cressida to the rescue. Let's try this again. Here we go. A little rough. Running though. really excessively shaky or anything like that. No fuel leaks as far as I can tell. No coolant or oil leaks so far. Heck yeah. Now all I gotta do is let it warm up and hopefully the bubbles will stop coming out of that. Otherwise, all for nothing. I'm gonna get back to you once this thing gets up to temp. Now, I'll be honest, she was scaring me a little bit there at first. It was running a little rough. Kind of had a little bit of white smoke coming out the exhaust. But I think that was just condensation from sitting for so long. Because there's no more smoke coming out of the exhaust. She's running good. A little shaky at idle. I think that's just something to do with probably wiring. The wiring on this car is not the best. But she's running. She's doing good. She's pulling. And it's not overheating. It's not bubbling out the overflow. Oil's doing fine. No leaks. I think I'm going to call this a job done. Successful Subaru rebuild of sorts. Alright. I'm going to go ahead and end it here. Thanks for watching, guys. And hit that subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. We're going to get back to RX-7 content next.